Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Answer Is You podcast. Here we want to discuss little topics on how to improve relationships. I'm a big believer that all the relationships in our life are a mirror for us to see where we can grow, where we can heal, where we have the opportunity to question beliefs and patterns so we can grow in our relationships and to evolve in life and to empower ourselves to live in a greater truth of who we are. So today I want to talk about when someone is making us feel worthy, what does it reveal about us? So let's take a moment and just define feeling worthy. Because it's very important, because many times when there is something coming up in any type of relationship where we feel maybe we're not worthy of that connection, or that person triggers us into feeling not worthy, it's most of the time connected to trauma. And then it's very hard for us to discern if it's connected to trauma or not, because the moment we move into a trauma response, we are back in that past experience that initially caused us to feel unworthy. And then it's very hard for us to really see, is this happening right here or is this not? So let's put it together with a little example. For example, if there is someone in your life, let's say it's a good friend and they have, or it's a really good friend and they have a lot going on. So for 2 months, you barely hear anything from them. Someone who might have an issue or a topic coming up for them with self-worth, they might take that personal. They might say, maybe they don't like me. Maybe they don't care about that connection. They feel not worthy because of that. But then you got to ask yourself, is this really what's happening? Or is this person still caring just as much about you than they did the whole time previously? They just have a lot going on. They don't have the space to extend themselves even more. So when you move in that experience into a trauma response, you would just be like, maybe they don't like me. Maybe that is not the connection for me anymore. So how do you see then that this is a trauma response and this is not actually happening? When you actually have like a little internal list of what makes you feel worthy. And that can be different for everyone, of course. But let me give you some examples. Like when I feel worthy in a connection, I feel seen. I feel when I share something that I'm heard in my concerns, in my truth. Even if that person doesn't even share the same values or the same truth or see things different, they will still validate how I feel because they're appreciative of the connection. They are appreciative of what I'm sharing, what's in my heart. So that's another most important thing for me is when I feel worthy in a connection, I feel appreciated. I feel appreciated sharing space. I feel appreciated having a deep conversation. I feel appreciated when someone is present with me, when someone doesn't keep looking at their phone when they're with me, when they are not keep interrupting a conversation to take a call, when they're present with me, even when they have a busy schedule, they still respond to me, even if it's just something little, but to make you feel like you're seen. That's something that makes me feel worthy in connection. So coming back to that example of that friend that might be busy for 2 months, and you might come into like this trauma response where you're just like, do they really make me feel worthy here? Or is that maybe a trauma showing up for me? Then it's really good for you to have that internal checklist where you can check that off. Maybe they're really not responding to you, so that is not happening here. But did anything else change in the connection that makes you feel like you cannot share your truth anymore? That they're not seeing all of who you are? That you feel like when you're talking to them, you cannot relate anymore, or that they're not present with you when you're talking to them? If they're just busy and that's all it is, maybe that's just a trauma response showing up for you, and everything else is still the same. And if that is the case, that is your opportunity to ask yourself why this is showing up for you, because everything is a mirror for you to reveal a deeper truth about yourself so you can heal, so you can grow. And this is your opportunity in that relationship or in that situation in this relationship. So let's reframe when it comes to unworthiness and it shows up for you as a way, like not even a trauma response, but let's put it that way. If it shows up for you as a question, am I worthy in this connection, or do they make me feel worthy? If it's related to a trauma, then one of three things might happen for you. Number one, you just feel, am I worthy in this connection? Do they make me feel worthy? Maybe I'm not worthy of this connection. If you ask yourself that, really go through your checklist and see if this is actually happening. And if it's not, it's something internally. Most of the time, when we are asking ourselves, am I worthy? Or if you are doubting that you're worthy of that connection, to better frame it, there is this part within you that feels like you're not. Because otherwise, even if there is a situation happening in a relationship where someone could have responded better or could have validated you more with what you shared, or could have seen more of who you really are, you would have just shared that with them. But you would have not made it about you asking yourself, am I worthy? Questioning your own self-worth, because that's two different things. There can be someone not showing up for you the way you would like for them to. And on the other hand, there is, do they make you feel worthy or not? That's two different things. But if someone not showing up for you in the way you want them to show up for you, should not immediately cause you to be like, maybe I'm not worthy of their connection, of their friendship, whatever it is. So that is for you to ask yourself, what is this connected to? What past experience might have caused that? And then really sit with that emotion. It doesn't even have to be, if you're not sure of the experience that might have caused it, sit with the emotion that is showing up for you. Most of the time it's sadness, because we want to be seen by the people we love and we care about. Then sit with that sadness, and that will already shift so much for you and bring you back to balance, so you can be more neutral and see the connection more for what it is, rather than from a trauma perspective. Number two, you might get really triggered if someone causes you to feel like, maybe I'm not worthy, or questioning your own self-worth in that connection. So you might be aggravated, you might be upset, you might be resentful, you might just be like, oh my God, I don't care about that connection, let them go. If you have a response like that, you're just pushing that connection away. You're pushing that connection away to avoid pain. So same like in that first example, allow yourself to sit with that anger that is showing up for you, because most of the time under the anger is just really sadness. We're just trying to push that feeling away when someone is making us feel like we might not be worthy, or triggers us into questioning if we are worthy, because we're upset, because we want them to make us feel worthy. We want them to make us feel seen, heard, and appreciated the way we need it. But maybe they cannot give that to us right now. Maybe it's not up to them to give it to us in general, because we need to give it to us. So sit with that anger that is showing up for you that probably carries sadness underneath. And when you're able to sit with that anger and sit with that sadness, things will shift for you internally. And number 3, which I think is like a dynamic that is very common for a lot of people, is when we start questioning our worth. Most of the time that's happening, for example, when we're dating, but it can also happen like with family members and friends, whatever it is. It's just very prominent when it comes to dating for a lot of people. When people make us feel like we're not worthy of that connection, we try harder. We try to go the extra mile. We try to push communication, push being more close to them in any way. Come back to sitting with yourself and asking yourself why you need to fill the void. Why do you need that space that was created through whatever? Let's come back to the beginning of that friend who does not have time, but you went through your checklist and nothing else changed in that connection. It's just they don't have that much time right now. It doesn't have anything to do with you, but you make it about yourself. And maybe you try to fill the void by talking to them more, but they will not respond because they just don't have time. Then ask yourself why you feel a need to try harder. Why you need to try filling the void. Because it's uncomfortable, most likely for you to sit in that void. Because you need for them to make you feel worthy of that connection. While you are worthy of connection in the first place, there is nothing you need to do. And that is maybe the truth that you need to learn in that connection. There's nothing you need to do. You are always enough. Having you in your life is an honor for the people around you. And maybe that is the truth and the belief that you need to get to. And you need to heal that part within that does not believe that. So I'm extending that question to you now. How do you sit with when you feel like you're not worthy of a connection? And what are you doing about it to reframe it and to shift it? I would love to hear from you, and I can't wait to reconnect with you guys in the next episode. Have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for listening to the Answer Is You podcast, your place to heal and grow in relationships. Follow us on YouTube at Tenetera Healing or on Spotify at The Answer Is You podcast to stay up to date about new episodes and all the things about healing relationships. Or follow us at Tenetera Healing on Instagram to heal stress and anxiety and to learn about mind-body healing. We can't wait to connect.